Hello and welcome back to another Sky Fantasy Football Q&A video. Today we're heading into a controversial game week, going into game week 20. As I'm recording this, the Solanke news has just came out that all points in Sky regarding the Bournemouth-Luton game will be voided as the game's going to be rescheduled. So again, a bit of a hum and haw about what kind of decision, if that was a good decision or a bad decision. It doesn't look like there's going to be any compensation for anyone, which isn't looking ideal because it's kind of a bit of a 50-50 for me. I'm kind of on an even playing field with the whole decision, as my main team didn't have Solanke, but my second team gained so much from having Solanke. But there is going to be a lot of people who are missing out on like 30-40 points. And a transfer as well, missing out on that. So the fact that the game is very money orientated makes it like a bit I don't know, I think that's what makes it so tough, the fact that it is just a very money orientated game, with there being a big prize and money being in the game for mini leagues and stuff. But I don't know, we did speak about it a bit more in the preview, and we knew it was going to be a tough decision. All the other fantasy games have done the same thing, so it was kind of inevitable that decision would be made. But I think for owners of Solanke, it is a bit sore, especially people who captained them and used transfers to get them in and stuff. But it doesn't look like Sky is going to be doing anything more on the matter. So again, a bit unfortunate, but that isn't what we're here to talk about today. We are starting off with JT's question, who says, would you sub out a Wolves player for a Brighton player on Thursday if you still had Chelsea coverage for Christmas Eve? So I think with this question, if I definitely didn't have coverage for Brighton and Palace tonight, and I didn't have coverage for West Ham and Brighton on the 2nd of January, I would definitely be looking to get a Brighton player in. But as you say, you've got a Chelsea captain already for Christmas Eve, so there's no real reason to keep a Wolves player, unless obviously they'd look like a better captain. But I think I imagine you've got something like Palmer and Twangy Chan, in which case I probably would just be captaining Palmer anyway, or even a Chelsea defender. I think most Chelsea players look better captaincy options than the Wolves guys. So yeah, I think it looks probably like a good idea. I think a straight swap with someone like Hwang Chan to Pascal Gross could be quite good. I'd probably avoid Dunk because of the yellow card situation. You don't really know when that's going to come around, if he's going to be suspended for the next captaincy day. But I would definitely be looking at Gross, and I think if you don't have coverage for those 2 days, then a Brighton player does look like a very sensible transfer, because you only need one transfer to get them in, and then you can just get them back out at the overhaul. The next question comes in from FPL Spartans, who says, plans for captaincy on Wednesday the 27th of December, Palmer if available, or transfer in a Man City player, if so who? So for me, my captaincy, if Haaland obviously is going to be out, I've got Rodri as a backup, so he's probably just going to be the easy captain in both teams. I've also got Petrovic as the goalkeeper, the Chelsea goalie, in my first team. I wouldn't be going anywhere outside of that. I think if you've got a Chelsea player, I would just keep them as a captain. I don't think there's any real need to bring in a Man City player, other than Haaland, of course. But yeah, on paper, I think the Chelsea game probably is the easier game with the home game against Palace. So if I had like Palmer and Rodri, I'd probably be going for Palmer on that day. But I think Rodri, again, he's an easy cover for me. I've had him since he came back from his suspension, and it is a good cover for Haaland, because obviously you know what you're getting from him. You're getting like 5 to 10 points every single game. So for me, that's my captaincy. I wouldn't be transferring in a City player. I think if you're in a position where you don't have a captain, then I would bring in a Chelsea player for, like, maybe you want to skip the Christmas Day captaincy, the Christmas Eve captaincy. I would bring a Chelsea player in, that way you get a captaincy for Christmas Eve, and then you get this captaincy here on the Wednesday against Crystal Palace. I'm going to pull up the fixtures actually, give me 2 seconds. Okay, so here's the fixtures. Obviously we're just focusing on the Wednesday 27th, so I doubt that, I suppose Wolves play on that day as well, so I doubt anyone's going to have any Brentford players, and I doubt anyone's going to have any Everton players, and I think with the current Palace injury situation, I doubt anyone's going to have any Palace players either, so you're really looking at Wolves, Chelsea or City as your captain. So if you're looking at that Wednesday and you've only got Haaland playing, I think I would look at bringing in a captaincy on the 24th there, and that way you get a captain for the Wolves Chelsea game, and then you can captain whatever one you want on the 27th. So yeah, I wouldn't be bringing a City player in though, because you're only getting Everton and then Sheffield. Obviously if it's Haaland it's a totally different story. If he is confirmed fit, we do get to see the lineups for 15 minutes, so we will know if Haaland's playing, which is good, but if he isn't, then I think you just fall back on the Christmas Eve the Christmas Eve captaincy there. But again, for me, I'm perfectly okay with that. I've got Rodri in my team. I think a lot of people would have went for Alvarez over Haaland there as well. So I think that's a fair captaincy there as well. But I think if you get Cole Palmer, perfectly fine. If you've got any of the Chelsea defenders, perfectly fine. Even the goalkeeper, I think, is a good option. And then any of the Wolves guys, if you're looking to go for Wolves on Christmas Eve. The next question comes in from Adam, who says, if Haaland's on the bench versus Everton, do we bring him in still? It's worth thinking about as we can't see the lineups for the Sheffield game 2 days later. Can Palmer cover him if he starts both, or do we just follow the crowd? I think if Haaland's on the bench versus Everton, I wouldn't be bringing him in that day. I think we'd be able to get more information on whether he starts or not, because Man City have so many leaks these days, so I think we'd get more information closer to the Sheffield game on whether he does play. I think at that point you probably do just make the transfer to bring in Haaland, as much as, like, why would you bring a transfer for one game? You would captain him, and it's again debatably the easiest fixture in the league, so Haaland could easily score 3-4 goals in that, and those who brought him in, if you didn't bring him in, you could easily end up ruining your season with the amount of people that do have him, and it could end up being just a differential with so many people wanting to hold back until the overhaul and not bring Haaland in, and if Haaland does really well, then obviously you're gaining quite a lot from that. I definitely don't think Palmer could cover him, if we're saying Haaland plays both games. Obviously if Haaland's going to be in the bench against Everton, then yeah, I think Palmer could cover him, but if we're saying like if they both start as Palmer, an equal captain to Haaland, I definitely wouldn't say so. But yeah, I think if Haaland's on the bench against Everton, I would just leave him. Hope that he plays the Sheffield game. I hope he's not out for I hope he is out for the Sheffield game, and we get confirmation about that, because then we don't have to make the transfer. But if he is back for Sheffield, I would probably be bringing him in for that one. Adam also asks a second question, saying, what's your thoughts on introducing a Rule 4 in Sky where 2/3 of Solanke's points are given in reflection of only 2/3 of the match getting played? So as far as I understand, Rule 4 is like a horse racing thing, where like the bets, like if betting on horse racing, if a lot of horses don't start the race, then the bet gets like changed according to how many horses start the race. So in this situation, I think it just would make things a bit more complicated. Obviously, we do now have the verdict that Solanke's points are just getting removed, but I think a two-thirds, if you were to give 2/3 of the points, it just complicates everything. I think you just say you can have all the points, or you can have none of the points. But for me, I think with the whole Solanke situation, I think I would have just kept the points, because we've got the overhaul anyway, which doesn't give Solanke owners right now an extra advantage, because anyone can bring Solanke in at the overhaul if they want to. So as far as I understand, the game between Bournemouth and Luton is going to be played after the overhaul, so those who brought Solanke in aren't going to get an extra game out of it, because there's going to be an overhaul that cuts off that whole thing. So there's no real advantage there. It's really just a normal, like the season being played out as normal up to the overhaul, but then there's an extra game later in the season with Bournemouth and Luton, in which point anyone can jump on if they want, so there's no advantage. But that's my view on it. Obviously that's not what happened, we are getting all the points removed, but I think this situation just kind of would complicate things way too much. But obviously they have now removed the points, and it is what it is. We're just going to have to move on. Hopefully Solanke goes and scores a hat-trick and makes up for it at the weekend, but we will see. The next question comes in from Johnny, who says, I've got no captain for Brighton on Thursday, but I have Bowen. Been thinking skip Thursday all along, but could do Rice to Gross. What do you think it's worth it? Right, okay, so obviously you're only going to be having Gross for this Thursday captaincy, because Bowen is the obvious captain on the 2nd of January. In terms of Rice to Gross, I think when you're looking at Rice, what my position on Rice is that it only picks up tiers in the, we'll say, easier games. I've noticed it with like when they play the likes of Chelsea, Spurs, City, he only pick up a 2-pointer if he doesn't score or assist. This is. But when he plays against the likes of Wolves and Brentford and stuff, he'll pick up the passes, he'll pick up the tackles. So obviously they have Liverpool at the weekend, so I wouldn't be surprised if Rice ended up with a 2-pointer. So if you wanted to bring Gross in this week and captain him, I think it probably could be worth it. But I think if you're trying to conserve transfers, I probably would just stay. Obviously after the Liverpool game, you've got West Ham and you've got Fulham for Arsenal, in which case you probably would expect the passing and the possible tackles as well. So that's 10 points from those two games, 12 points from 12 points total, including the Liverpool game if you include two games with passing. And let's say he gets one tackle tier 2 in there, so that's 15 points total. And then obviously he could get a goal or assist, but we don't want to gamble on that. So we're saying 15 points for Rice up until the overhaul from now. Do you think Gross could beat that? I think possibly, obviously, but for it to be worth a transfer, you're needing them to beat it by 10 points. So is Gross going to score 25 points between now and the overhaul? Probably not, unless he picks up a big haul tonight. And obviously you were going to captain him on the Tuesday, on the 2nd of January, but you've got Bowen. So is Gross going to score 25 points with a captaincy against Palace tonight, a game against Spurs away, and a game against West Ham, in which case you're not going to captain him anyway? I don't think so. So for me, I probably would just be keeping Rice in that situation. And yeah, I think you're okay. Obviously, the only thing that would totally mess that up is if Gross did haul tonight. Obviously, with a captaincy, if he gets like a goal tonight, then it's like 15 points, and you only need 10 from him over the next two games. So it is a bit of a risk. Personally, I don't think it's worth it, and I would just keep Rice. The next question comes from XZ, who says, what do you think the impact of the removal of Solanke's points would be? Could this lead to a large number of players that may quit altogether this season, especially those that captained them? Yeah, I think it is obviously a big like stab in the back for a lot of people. Again, we have already kind of spoken about the Solanke situation, but I have seen in the comments and stuff of Sky's post, a lot of people saying it's like the final straw, and what has been a bad season. For a lot of people, I think, yeah, like if you've been active this whole time and your season's not going too well, and then you've brought Solanke in, captained them, and then the points go away, I do think that would be a lot to try and keep yourself in the game, especially if you're like quite low in mini leagues and stuff like that. But yeah, I think a lot you will see, like a lot, not enough to the point where like everyone's quitting the game, but I think there will definitely be a good amount of people that are having bad seasons and decide this clearly a sign it's not working for me. But again, for a lot of people will be happy that Solanke's points have been removed. For example, my first team's probably going to do quite well, go up a couple hundred ranks because I didn't have Solanke, and everyone got Solanke points removed, so I'll probably move up in the rank. But I think a lot of people that definitely did captain him, especially if they had someone like Cole Palmer as a captain, who's done very, very well and get a double-digit haul, you're talking like 30-40 points missed out on and a transfer. I think you probably will see a lot of people start to lose motivation in the game, and may not play. Maybe they will play over Christmas, and then that'll be it when the overhaul comes round. And the final question of the video comes in from GG Magpie, who says, what would you do if you owned Paul Torres, as he is confirmed out for Friday's match versus Sheffield? So obviously today Emery has confirmed that Torres will not be available. I think if he's your only captain that you've got for Friday, then I would try everything to try and get Watkins in my team. I think Watkins looks like a fantastic captaincy, easily the best captaincy, and I don't see any reason why you shouldn't hold him till the overhaul. If you've got Paul Torres and you can't afford Watkins, then it's a bit more difficult, because I think I'd just be keeping Paul Torres. Like, I wouldn't be transferring him out because it doesn't look like it's a bad injury. I think he should be back for the midweek games next week. But I think just in general, I would be trying to get Watkins in, even if it's for like another player in your midfield or whatever, who hasn't been performing or whatever like that. But I think getting Watkins in would definitely be a priority for Friday's match. Obviously, it's unfortunate that Torres is out, but sometimes these injuries happen, and I feel like if you're going into that game without a captain, you could be running a really high risk of losing out big time. If Watkins hauls there, because he's so highly owned, and I would try my best to be getting him in. In terms of Torres though, like, if you can get Torres out for Watkins, great, I would do that. If you can't afford it, I would just keep Torres because it doesn't look like it's going to be a bad injury. But I would try very, very hard. Even Emi Martinez, I don't think he covers Watkins, but if you can't afford Watkins, then it is probably the second best option. But yeah, I think I'd try keep Torres if you can. If you can afford moving him on to Watkins, I would, and I would try and get Watkins in as soon as possible. But that is going to wrap up this week's Q&A video. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like. As always, if you want to get involved in the Q&As, head over to my Twitter, which is in the top left hand corner, and we'll ask on Wednesday nights for any questions or dilemmas, and then we'll answer them in Thursday's video. So once again, make sure to leave a like. Comment down below if you got impacted by the Solanke removal of points. Again, like I said, for me it was kind of like a 50-50. One team I was fine, the other team I did move them in and captain them, so a bit bittersweet for me. But let me know down in the comments if you've got impacted by it, what kind of rank you've lost by doing that, and I will see you all in the next video.